Hi everyone. Sorry I haven't been around for a while. I have been working on a couple big projects. One of them I, excuse me, one of them I am gonna share with you guys here in the next upcoming week or so. There's still some things that need to be worked out with it, but I think it's gonna be pretty cool, pretty fun, and it's gonna be for anybody. But I am going to make a section that mainly concentrates on art, designers, and teaching art and stuff. It's gonna be pretty cool and pretty big. But that's the reason why I haven't been around for a while is because I've been working on that project. Today the lesson in this tutorial is going to be on dodging and burning. Now some people might disagree on the way I dodge and burn. Um, there's numerous different ways you could do it. There's not no one set way, but I think I need to do some tutorials on teaching on how to use the tools, because if you don't know your tools, then you know um, the things that you're gonna be able to do as of right now. If you don't know how to use the tool, is going to be very limited. And when you understand the program that you're working with, you could go ahead and focus on making what you want to make. Focus on the image instead of focusing on how do I do this, how do I do that. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go to File, New, and this document I'm going to make a 1280 by 70 and press OK. Actually, first off, I'm going to show another trick. Let's go 1920 by 1080, and we'll go down to advanced options. 72 resolution is fine if you want to keep it on your computer and stuff. But if you ever want to print your work, most companies that print require a minimum of a 300 pixel resolution. So we're going to go ahead and set that at 300, and that's 1920 by 1080, which is high definition. And what I'm going to teach you is how to make this a template. You know, when you go into new and you go right here to search, like I have the 1280 by 720. So you just go to File, and you go all the way down to Create Template, and you just put in 1920 by 1080, or whatever you want to name it is fine, and then you press OK, and there you go, and it should be saved. We're going to go ahead and close this out and go back to File, New, and there you see 1920 by 1080. But for this tutorial I'm going to use 1280 by 720, and we are going to, I have this set at 72. I'm going to go ahead and change that to 300 and press OK. And I'm going to go and I'm going to create this template because I didn't save it. 720, and let's see, and we got the one, and I will show you later on in a different tutorial on how to delete the things, which file folder and stuff to go into. But this is what we want for now. This image is pretty awesome. The girl, I do not know where she came from or what she came out of. I found it on a rendering website, and I thought it looked pretty cool, and she's pretty bright already, but I figured I would show you a little bit on how to brighten her up a little bit more with the dodge and burn tool. And it's a pretty cool image, I think. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go first, we are going to turn this black, and we're going to go and you go and find your image, whatever image you're using, and this is the one that I'm going to use, so I'm going to drop it in there, and we are going to get rid of this. So just grab your rectangular select tool and press the delete key, Control Shift A, delete the selection. And like I said, as you can tell, she's pretty bright already. I thought it was a cool pick to begin with. We're gonna just go ahead and scale her up, and you could go over here and click on the scale tool, or you press Shift T to scale. And over here I'm going to click on no guides and keep aspect ratio, and we are going to scale her up. Let's move her down towards the middle here. I don't want to scale her up too big and distort her too much. Let's get her down just a little bit and press enter or scale, and there you go, she's scaled up. And the first thing that I did was I created a new layer, and I called this shadow. And we are going to go over here to our paintbrush tool, and we're going to grab a soft brush with color black, and we're going to scale it up. Let's see, that should be fine. And we are going to lower the opacity to, I don't know, about 20%, I would say. And you could go ahead, if you want to, you could Alt and then click on it to make a selection around her. Let's go and right click and go to layer to image size, and if you want to just keep the shadows on the inside of her and not color in on the outside, this is basically what they call in Photoshop doing it this way. If you're on the right layer, I apologize, click on this layer. They call it a clipping mask, and Gimp does not, as of yet, have the option to go ahead and make a layer clipping mask. I hope they do one day, that would be awesome. But this is a workaround, and you could do it like this. With this image, I didn't color inside the line because I wanted the dark shadow on the outside. If you could tell when I turn it off. Oh wait, I gotta turn this off. Okay. See how much it brightens that image up? I did not want that look. So but if you don't want to add, if you don't want to make this exact picture or anything, I'm showing you how to make a clipping mask, and you could go ahead and do it this way by, like I said, alt clicking on the girl. But we're gonna go ahead and Control Z and Control Shift A because I don't want to do it like that. And I'm gonna raise the size up just a little bit and just go in around the edges of her and darken her up. You could turn up the opacity if you would like. And just start darkening her up. And the effect that I'm going for is I want this kind of, you know, the dark shadow, and this brighten her up right here in the middle, kind of like there's a light shining on her or something in front. And this is kind of like a fantasy type picture. So if you pretend and you think that there's a light flashing right in front of her and the darkness is coming in around her, that was the main point of the image. So we're going to go ahead and darken her up. and just keep on going around until you think she's dark enough for your liking. And I'm using a pretty big size brush here. I'm using a 283 pixel brush on my screen. One thing that I found when I watched tutorials, I still watch tutorials, but sometimes the dimensions that some people use, they are off on other computers. So you just got to find something that's comfortable for you. And as you could tell, you could see this darkening effect. And towards the outside, I want to get it pretty dark on the very outer edge of her, and then kind of have it fade in. Just like that. And as you can tell, this is already starting to look pretty cool. It's a great effect. Alrighty. So I think that's dark enough. You could go even darker if you'd like. That is totally up to you. Now now click back on the girl and let's go ahead and make a new layer. And let's go over here and let's change the color. Let's go over here to this one and type 50, and that means that it's 50% gray. So let's go ahead and click OK, and we are going to grab our paint bucket tool, or I have a shortcut, and mine is Control Backspace for the foreground and Control Delete for the background. And we are going to go ahead, sorry if you hear me sniffling, it's because I have had a cold here the past couple days. We're going to go over here and we're going to put this layer on overlay. Okay, and now we're going to go over here to our dodge and burn tool, and we're going to lower the size of our brush, and we are going to be on dodge, and the range is going to be on the mid-tones, and you could turn down the exposure. The exposure is at 50%. We're going to go down a little bit lower, let's say about 30%, and we are going to scroll back up here, and we're going to turn the opacity back down to, I'd say, let's start out with 13% and see how that does. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. You could zoom in by pressing okay, it's not wanting to work today. What is going on here? Well, you could zoom in with your mouse wheel or press Shift plus. Let's see if it's starting to work now. Okay, it's working now. Shift plus or the minus key. Minus key zooms out, Shift plus zooms in, or Control using your mouse wheel. But we're going to zoom in quite a bit on here, and you can see how it's getting real pixelated, and that's because the image was small and I sized it up. So let's go ahead and make our brush a lot smaller, and you can do that using the bracket keys on your keyboard. Gimp is acting messed up for me today. Apologize about that, and just let's lower the size down quite a bit, and let's go ahead and pan up. You could pan up using this down here, or you could hold the space bar and pan, or you could have the navigation up here and pan too. So on this 50% gray layer, you want to have it clicked, and you just want to go over the highlights, and you want to just kind of work with the shape of her nose. And I do have the opacity down quite a bit, so you might not tell a huge difference, but if I turned it on 100%, it will be bad. It's basically we'll paint it white, and that's not what we want. So just use a low opacity. Let's go ahead and size this up. And just kind of work with the shape of the shadows and the hair. And we are dodging right now. And if you could see that, it is doing, that's off and that's on. It is doing what it's supposed to. It is bringing out the highlights. Let's go ahead and size the brush down a bunch now. Zoom in more, size down more, and let's go ahead and get in here on these highlights on her lips. And the great thing, like I said, about using a low opacity is you could go over it time and time again to get it the way you want. Let's just go over all these little highlights. Raise the brush size up a little bit. Let's get this little highlight over here. Highlight over here on this side. And then right here on her chin, you just kind of want to go with the flow of the image, I guess you could say, or the flow of her skin. Try to stay on the highlights. And let's go ahead and I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit more. Raise the brush size up. Not that big. That's big enough. And I'm going to get right in here on these highlights in here. Let's zoom out. Let's see how that looks. Looks good to me. Let's go ahead and zoom back in here. And let's downsize the brush quite a bit. Let's go in here and bring out this little white mark inside of her eye. Raise the size. I'm just, like I said, I'm using the left and right bracket key. The right one makes it bigger, the left makes it smaller. And as of right now, I'm just going in here and I'm working with all the highlights. Let's go down here on her neck. Get this highlight in here. And if it looks like you're painting on there, then that means your opacity is too high. And it can cause the image to look funky. like mine. It's too high, so I'm going to Control Z some of this, and we're going to it's just as simple as lowering the opacity and lowering the exposure. That looks a lot better. And now I'm just going to raise the brush up a decent size and just go over all the bright white parts. And that brightens her up a whole bunch. But on this image, that is the look that I'm going for. It's totally up to you on how much dodging you want to use on her. And now we can switch over to burn and lower the exposure a little bit. And let's go ahead and opacity's fine. Let's lower the size just a little bit. And you can darken these outside edges. So let's raise the exposure back up just a little tiny bit, maybe 25, and the opacity up to maybe 10. And let's see what that does for us. And we're still on the midtones, even on the burn. And we're just going, now you're wanting to go into all the shadows and darken all the shadows up. And on this layer you can use, with the 50% gray, you can use the paintbrush, black and white, if you want. It's totally up to you and your preference. But black and white will work. White for the highlights, of course, and black for the burning. And I'm just really going around these outside edges. And turn the exposure up quite a bit. And turn the opacity back up. A little bit more. And you might not notice a real big change, but that's because I have this set on a low opacity and the exposure is pretty low. But you just want to go in here and steadily darken things up. Zoom in here and lower the size and just darken up some of these shadows here on her neck. And maybe these ones on her cheek right here. That might have been too dramatic. But let's see when we zoom out a little bit here. Let's go ahead and darken this up a little bit. Where her hair part's up here. Bring out those shadows a little bit. Let's raise up the brush size a wee bit more. Let's go ahead and keep on working on this edge a little bit. And like I said, if you remember right, she was all bright white to begin with. So we are just basically kind of darkening her up. Not the shadows, we're darkening her. And dodging and burning to you is totally up to you. I mean, I have spent on some images, I have dodged and burned, and it's taken me, I don't even know how long, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. Some images may take, if there's a bunch of things with a bunch of highlights and shadows, it could take 3-4 hours or longer. It just depends on how good you want the image to look and how much attention you want to pay to the details in the image to make your image great. But for tutorial's sake, I am going to not spend a whole lot of time on dodging and burning her. I just wanted you guys to see the basic concept, and I don't know if you could see them changes, but they're really dramatic. And I messed up on her neck right here because I went with too high of a opacity when we were dodging, and you just want to be careful with that and don't go too high with your opacity because it will mess your image up a little bit. But on this one, this is what I did, and that's how I made her really bright white. Let's see, what else do I want to show you guys? Let's see, we could go ahead and let's see, open up, which one do we want to use? This one right here. Just drag and drop it in there. And even just like that, that's pretty cool. You can leave that like that if you want. I'm using, let's see, they call this liquid ink, but basically all it is smoke. This one is anyways. All the rest of them, some of them are ink in water. They're very nice. Let's see here. What do we want to do with this? Let's go Shift T. I don't want to take up too much time on this tutorial. Scale that down just a little bit more. Yeah, actually, we're going to leave it back like that because I like that look. And if you can tell, the reason why that is like that is because of the shadows we did earlier. That's the reason why I was telling you on some images, if you don't want to make shadows like that, you could go ahead and alt click on her and then just go ahead and click back on your shadow layer and then go ahead and color her in that way. And like I said, that acts as a clipping mask. Control Shift A to deselect. But that in this image, that is not the look I was going for. If you could tell, I wanted it to be darkened and then kind of have this smoky looking effect in there. But for, like I said, for tutorial's sake, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. Let's see, because this is already a 30-minute video. I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys how to dodge and burn. And if you have any questions, leave comments below the video. If you'd like to know where I got this image, I will leave a link in the description. If you want to have this file, I will go ahead and leave a link to my website in the description, and you could go there and you could go ahead and download the file from there, so you could go ahead and look over this yourself if you'd like. And what else? I think that is it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please like, subscribe, that helps out a lot, and I will be continuing making tutorials for you. Have a good day. Thank you.